If you're currently looking to buy or build a new gaming system and wondering which CPU to use, then here's a list of potential contenders for your new rig, ranging from the budget right up through to the top end gaming systems. So first, let's put the prices in, how much they currently cost. Here we go. So you can see that it's broken down into the budget end here, mid-range, and then we got the top range, and then we got these crazy prices for the Threadripper 2990 and R9980XE. No one's going to pay that, so you can ignore them. So we'll break up into the three budgets. There you go. So the budget range covers systems from around $600 to $750. Put those prices in. And the mid-range from around $1250 to $1500, maybe $2000 for this one, i9-7700K. And then we come to the top spec PCs, top spec gaming PCs for the 9900K and the 3900X Ryzen. And we can forget about the last two. No one's going to pay that price. So these are the three budgets that we got in mind. The cheapo at the top for under $1,000, well under $1,000. Mid-range up to $1,500 depending on what graphics card you go for. And the top end where you get the best graphics card, probably you'll be looking around $3,500, $2,500 to $3,500. So which CPU? Well, it comes down to three factors. Number one, the speed of a single core. The total speed benchmarking for the multi-core, because some of these have got 4 cores, there's 8 cores, 12 cores, and then there's these at the bottom. So that's what you got to look out for, how many cores it's got and how they perform. And the final test is a game. How did they perform in a game in terms of frames per second? So I've used pass mark scores because they've tested hundreds of thousands of these CPUs to get accurate gauge of how they perform, and these are how the single cores perform. As you can see, we've got the budget end, the AMD Ryzen and a Threadripper, a 2017 Threadripper that is, coming in at around 2000 to 2100 for a single core on pass mark test. And we've got a couple of Intels that score quite high, 2600, 2500. So they're good contenders. The reason that you got to focus on single core is because games mostly rely on 1 at most 2 cores, even the most up-to-date games. So having 32 threads is not going to make much difference to a game. A 4-core 8-thread processor would be absolutely fine for a game, which is why we focus on the single cores, and Intel tend to be better than AMD on single cores. Now we come to the mid-range, the AMD Ryzen 5 and 7. They're pretty high scores for a single core, and they actually beat the i7-9700K 2818. And then we got the top end that you're going to be looking at, the i9-900K at 2893 and the Ryzen 3900X at 2926. And we can forget the two at the bottom. So that's the single cores. It shows you these are the hot chips. We're not done yet because we've got to look at what the multi-core says. And there you go. A bit of a changed picture. the Intel. So these are old chips. I'll put the 2014 4790K in as in case you're thinking of getting a second-hand machine. If you're getting a second-hand machine for say $500 to $700, then this would be a good choice. i7 4790K based system. But as you can see, all of the budget lines, they don't perform as well on the multi as the higher end. This is where you want to be over 20,000 to maximize the multi-core aspect of your chip in terms of throughput. Of course, the more threads mean you're doing multitasking. That's lots of tasks, and games are basically 4 threads. Vast majority of games, even the modern ones, 4 threads maximum roughly. Obviously you're going to have other tasks running, like if you're streaming then you're going to need more cores, but if you go for the mid-range they're going to have 8 cores minimum anyway. Then we've got the top end, 20,000 for the Intel and 32,000 for the Ryzen 309X. On face value, that would suggest that the Ryzen is the winner. So if you look at these, the Intel chips tend to, because they've got less cores, obviously they're going to perform less on the multi-cores. You know, they can't compete in terms of cores, apart from the ridiculously priced i9-90XE. So, but however, that's not the whole story. If you just relied on these, then you would be mistaken, because what you need to consider is how the CPUs perform when you're actually playing the games. So for that, we're going to be using Shadow of the Tomb Raider score in terms of frames per second that you're going to experience when playing in medium setting, medium mode. Not the highest setting or the lowest, but middle. So how many frames per second will each processor deliver with a similar graphics card? Well, here's the scores for frames per second. There we go. So we got the budget end, $150 at 115, which is quite decent. And then you got the 2700X coming in at a high 146, so that is a good system, budget system. If you were going to get a budget machine, then the Ryzen 7 2700X is looking good. And as you can see, the 4790K showing its age at just 56. That is, well, you can play it 56 frames per second. You know, yeah. I think anything over 40 frames per second is playable. So while people get obsessed by frames per second, doesn't mean that a game's not playable at 50 frames per second. It is. But just that it's like everybody's in a competition. How many frames per second can they play a game at? So then we come to the mid-range PCs, around 1250 to maybe up to 2000, and they're all similar, around 150 frames per second. There's not much change. So any of these processors would do for a gaming rig. If you want to go for the cheaper option, 244, you want to future-proof a bit with the Ryzen 7 3700X. It's only marginal difference in terms of performance on the Tomb Raider. Then we come to that top end spec CPUs, the 9900K and the 3900X, which have 158 and 156. As you can see, Intel beats the 3900X, which illustrates the importance of real world benchmarking of the games that you'll be playing. Because if you just looked at these figures, then you'd think, oh, the Ryzen 9 3900X is smashing the Intel. It's higher on single core and a lot higher on multi-core because it's got a lot more cores. But when you actually play a game, again, the fact that they don't use more than about 4 threads, 2 cores, shows that Intel comes out at the top and it's cheaper. Next we come to price versus performance. We'll do the single cores first. This is how they work out, and as you can see, the bottom end you get good value for money in terms of price versus performance. Mid-range, the 3600X Ryzen sticks out, but there's not that much difference between them, whilst again top end, not much difference between the Intel and the Ryzen, both around 6, whilst the ridiculously priced, as you can expect for the ratio, give a abysmal price per performance on single thread, which is important for gaming. What about multi-thread? Okay. For multi-thread we get, again the bottom end show extremely good value for money. Again the Ryzen 3600X sticks out even more in the mid-range than the 3700X peps in, whilst here AMD with its more cores and threads has an advantage over the Intel 9900K. So depending on the task you're doing, that's why you're going to select the processor. If it's gaming, if you're top end for gaming, then it's going to be a 9900K. So in selecting which processors to go for, we can forget about these two at the bottom. What about the top end? Like I say, 9900K, it does outshine the Ryzen 3900X. I know many Ryzen addicts are not going to like that, but the 9900K is the better gaming CPU. Remember, these are for gaming. Which gaming CPU? However, if you're going for like video editing or machine learning or something like that involves more cores, utilize all of the cores and threads, then it will have to be the 3900X, which is still a good gaming machine. Look, there's only 2 frames per second difference on Tomb Raider. So the 3900X is a good gaming machine, and it is probably, the motherboard should be future proof, but I'm not 100% sure about that. But in terms of gaming, the 9900K just peps it here, but either would do. What about for mid-range? Well, for the mid-range, what sticks out? It would have to be the 3700X. It's got a good single core, good frames per second, and good multi-core. It's what sticks out. Although if you want to go really budget and save $60, then you could probably go for 3600X. But for future proofing, I'd go with the 3700X. So that would be the second pick from that'd be the mid-range pick, with Intel being the top range. What about the budget? For the budget, it would probably have to be the 2700X. 146 frames per second on Tomb Raider. Okay, single core, okay, multi-core, but in terms of real world performance, it shows, and when you're actually playing the game. So that would have to be the budget pick. Whilst if you can get something like the 4790K second hand, you can go for really budget. It's a $500 machine. If you can get it cheap on eBay, then this could be your second hand budget pick. It is showing its age in terms of frames per second, but it should turn out to be a lot cheaper than these, depending on the actual spec, what graphics card it comes with. That's going to make a big difference to gaming. Anyway though, those are my 3 CPU picks for November 2019. AMD are bringing out a new chip in about 10 days time, 11 days time. It's 14th of November and it's coming out 25th. 3950X. Now, I don't think that's going to make much difference compared to the 3900X. Yeah, it's going to have more cores, but you're going to be paying for it, and performance wise it's not going to be that much difference. It's still, the 9900K is still going to be better value for money when you work out the performance ratios on the single core, which is most important for gaming. Remember, games focus on the first core and then they delegate tasks to the other cores to some extent, maybe making use of 3 cores at the maximum, like 6 threads. You're not going to get much more than that, and that's limited use. The first core is the most important. That's why, you know, this figure is more important, the first core, and the price per performance. On the Ryzen 3950X, it's going to be a worse price per performance for the first core. For a single core, it's going to be like probably less than 5. I think it's 750. So it's just basically going to be that. This is going to be a higher number, but that's not going to change much. Single cores are not going to change much. You see, they're pretty constant. If you go up the table, you know, 2915, 2909, 2893, 2926. They're not going to change much, so the value, it drops to under 4. So on here, the Ryzen 3950X will be the worst value for money processor for gaming. Now, having I think it's got 16 cores and 32 threads, if I'm correct, if memory serves me correctly, then it will have a better multi-core score and multi-thread score, so that will be higher, but it's not value for money. So we can ignore the processor that's yet to come out, because it's going to be worse performance in terms of gaming, especially value for money. You're just going to pay an extra $250 for something that you're not going to utilize. So again, Intel wins this time. However, have you noticed how many AMDs are on this list? Because AMD has really rocked the market. It has given Intel a run for its money over the past 2.5 years. Increasingly, if you got 2.5 years, this list will be dominated by Intel. Or you probably won't even get one. I don't think the Ryzens were out 2.5 years ago. If you look at it, might be. You look at one AMD on this list. Now look at it. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 on this list. 1, 2, 3, 4 against 4 Intel. You can forget the bottom 2 because they're irrelevant. They don't come into gaming. So that shows you how AMD's performed. It's basically taking market share from Intel at a fast pace, and I won't be surprised if a year from now it'll be a AMD processor at the top in terms of gaming single core. It won't surprise me that a year from now Intel won't be the best gaming processor, unless they subsidize the market, which is a possibility, to try and knock it, because AMD is giving a run for them. They'll be, seriously, if they want to keep at the top, they're going to have to cut the prices deep, which they probably will do to rival AMDs, because they've got less cores. The processor have got less cores, but the single core tend to perform better than the benchmark suggest, as real gamings illustrate. So that's my CPU review for November 2019, or which is the best gaming CPU to get. Do check out my other videos and subscribe for new videos in this PC build component series. Yes, so and closing, which system would I get? Actually, it would be a toss-up between a 9900K and a 3900X. Either one would do. My preference is for Intel, and that's only because Intel processor-based machines tend to be more robust, more reliable. Obviously, if you overclock it, it's going to make it less reliable. But just even a small overclocking, they tend to be more reliable. You don't tend to get the blue screens of death as often with Intel. The AMD processors are more volatile. That's unfortunately, that is still the case, but to a lesser extent than in the past. Because this is why I stopped using AMD processors about, if as my main machine about 18 years ago, because they were just not as reliable as Intel even then. Yes, they have become more reliable, but there is that difference. Intel processors are more reliable. You are far less likely to get a blue screen of death, even if you don't overclock. Ryzen's, well, people who use Ryzen machines will know how often their computers crash. And Intel, like the computer I'm using now, it's in an Intel machine, Intel CPU, and it has probably crash frequencies 3 per year, whereas for Ryzen probably around 3 times per month. That's without overclocking. With overclocking, you increase instability, especially if you overclock the base clock, which you don't want to do. So do check out my other videos and subscribe for my next video in this series.